It's Seeing Red, the New York Soccer Roundup. Since 2010, your weekly source for independent New York Red Bulls news and opinion. Now, from the Joe Goldstein studio, here's your host, Mark Fishkin.
The Red Bulls dropped the Hudson Derby in a raucous Sports Illustrated Stadium 3-2. And a few days later, with Chicago winning at Miami, the Red Bulls find themselves on the outside of the postseason for the first time since the first Obama administration. It's not great, but it is seeing red. I'm Mark, and Gustavo Guimarâes is here. Hi, Gustavo. Thanks for joining on such a happy show.
Mark, how are you? Yes, always a pleasure to be here, my friend.
Tonight on Seeing Red, we'll go back and look at the Hudson Derby loss. Bull of the week? I don't know. A really ugly incident at the end of the match involving Raheem Edwards that we'll unfortunately have to discuss. We'll talk about what went wrong for this team that, you know, did a lot of things right and a lot of things not so well this year. Again, they're one game under 500, but they are out of the playoffs for the first time in a very, very long time. We'll preview Saturday's meaningless match against Cincinnati. Meaningless for the Red Bulls, not for the visitors. We're going to have a great chat with Steve Cangialosi of MLS Season Pass and some healthy emails with a lot of questions being asked, more questions than answered. So New York started the Hudson Derby. Listen, this was coming off of being at Red Bull Arena for the U.S.-Korea match a few weeks ago and saying to myself, we could have this every week if we wanted. And obviously, yes, City brought plenty of fans and brought plenty of supporters, but this was a full sold-out Sports Illustrated Stadium, and the crowd was raucous pregame, and this was the big game. I mean, this had big game energy, and New York came out, and Wiki Carmona gave a horrible ball away, and the ball's in the New York net less than a minute and 41 seconds into the game. And if there's anything that the Red Bulls have struggled with this year, for me, it's finding the urgency right away. And in key moments, whether it's right after scoring a goal, conceding, which they also did in this match, or, you know, the whistle blows and let's play. And New York wasn't ready, Gustavo.
It's been happening a lot this season. I agree with you. The soft beginnings. We can go back against we can go back to the Charlotte game. Same thing.
Yep.
Same exactly thing. They allowed the other team to score early and then compromises the whole strategy. I just would like these guys, please drink some energy. Red Bulls before the games. 5 minutes before the game, you'll be flying because and now we find ourselves in this situation.
Yeah, so they're down one, and again, it can't exclusively be on Schwartz. The players have to play right from the opening whistle. It's not just, I'm telling you that you have to be ready, like, let's go. It's pressure and mental errors and a young team, a number of young players, although you expect better from Wiki Carmona for sure. And it's been a theme that we've talked about throughout the entire season with Carmona, has just struggled greatly at this level. New York gets even in this match on a fantastic counterattack. And I really appreciate, because so much of this game and so much of the Red Bulls over the course of the season has been trying to walk the ball into the net and trying to make 3 passes in the opposing box. And sometimes you just have to boot it up the field and have something good happen, right? The City was playing a very high line. They were pressing the entire length of the field, as the Red Bulls have in the past. Chupo gets a ball, and, good on Julian Hall for recognizing. You can almost see the light bulb go off for Hall in the city box saying, "I've got to pull back a little bit. I've got to take 2 steps back, and the opportunity will be there for me." And sure enough, it was, and that was a somewhat simple, but at the same time complicated finish because he's all alone and the ball's coming, and all he has to do is just put a foot on it and direct it in, and he did just that. So good on the youngster.
What I liked about that play was the flexibility of the players. Julian should be the one giving the
Running.
assist to Shopo, not the 35, 36-year-old striker doing that. But he did so, and he did greatly. Julian was perfect inside the box too. Perfect finishing, hard one, just like you said. But I like it, that the fact that the attack was able to build up something out of the normal course of the thing. So it pleased me for that moment.
Yeah, agreed. And then, as we've seen so very often down the stretch for this team, start in the Open Cup against Philadelphia, continued a number of times for the rest of this doomed regular season. The lack of focus and concentration after scoring is just baffling. And Perea, to his credit, that ball was a ridiculous, hopeful ball that he put over Coronel in the net. I don't know. You can say yes, that's on Coronel because he was unsure. He didn't move. He was unsure whether or not that was going to drop in. That's a goal that you see, I mean, once every 2 or 3 years, where it's popped in the air on a very, very high angle. And you can make the argument, I guess, that Coronel should have stopped that, but you kind of have to tip your cap to Pereira there. The bad thing is that Pereira wasn't closed down as the ball was coming to him.
I agree with you. We got to give props to him. He was almost at the line of the box. But that's on Coronel.
Yeah.
If he's on the line, he just a quick jump and grab. He would be able to grab the ball and save and kill the play. When I saw that, I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe Coronel allowed this goal. It's like going back to last year's form before the playoffs, where against City, he had a horrible game too.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it happened again.
Yep. The teams go into the locker room at 2-1 for City, and then Matt Freese comes out of his net inexplicably to try and play a ball in the early minutes of the second half. And I have rarely seen as quality a counter in the opponent's third. And it really speaks to the quality of both Chupo and Forsberg, who clearly, I mean, have carried the team all season long. They've done everything that have been asked of them as DPs. It's really the rest of the lineup that's kind of let New York down. But having the two of them connect on a play where Freese is scrambling to get back into the net, and Forsberg's finish was a blistering shot, just phenomenal. And we talked with Glenn Crooks last week about City's propensity to make individual errors, and this was one of them for sure. And I just don't recall, it's oftentimes, sometimes you'll see keepers chipped from midfield. You saw obviously what happened with Coronel in the first half of this match, but to have a keeper just outside of his box lose the ball and get punished like that, that was really, it was quality stuff from New York.
I think we could call that a modernized version of the goalkeepers, right? They tend now to play with their legs, and obviously they'll make mistakes. It's not their natural ability to do so. And unfortunately, and now I'm talking as a U.S. national team fan, unfortunately, that happened with Freese, because I really like him. I think he has a bright future up ahead, even if he's the one that will be defending the U.S. national team. But just do the basics, man. Just do the basics. Kick it up the field, and live for another day. Sometimes I don't understand what goes through their minds. You're such in to put yourself in that position, to allow a mistake, a bad mistake like that. Just play up the field and life goes on.
Keep it simple for sure. City gets their winner off a corner in the 65th minute. Martins loses his man, is able to finish. And the Red Bulls had a number of opportunities in the late phases of the game. City did a really good job holding possession. They're a technically strong team, making New York chase. I thought Sean Nealis as a forward was definitely a thing. And Nealis actually had an opportunity to score. And you really got the sense that early in his, like, I could just see him basically say, yeah, I haven't played forward since, U12 youth league, where he clearly was the biggest kid on the field. But I want to bring your attention before we wrap up the match to the subs that the Red Bulls brought in. There was a sixth sub. 1, 2, 3, 4. No, sorry. Here are the subs. No, there was a sixth sub because Freeze went out with a concussion concern. This is not a collection of game changers. Okay. When you think about what you want to do, you're down in the match and you're trying to eke out a point or go ahead and get a win. The subs that Schwartz brought in, and this is not an attack on him, it's more an attack on the makeup of this team. Morales, Sofo, Yengar, Goma, Hack, and Sean Nealis as a forward. And it just, New York's injury woes have obviously been documented all season long here, but there aren't really any game changers there, sir, at all.
Not at all. Not at all. I want to talk about the fact that it wasn't a header that killed the game, but New York allowed 2 goals after losing air balls. And those center backs, they're super tall, so
right,
shouldn't be happening at all, And then when Nealis got that ball at the end of the game, I was expecting that ball, Schupo to be able to receive that ball, even though we know what went wrong.
Yep.
And like you said, not a single game changer, not a single player coming from the bench that could, bring some excitement or change the course of the game with one touch. And the fact that they had Sean Nealis using Sean as a striker,
yeah,
it's a completely failure. It shows all the wrong things whoever built this squad, this roster, and I was expecting better season record from this roster too. So
yeah,
I don't know. It's just embarrassing.
Yeah. City's won 4 straight regular season Hudson Derbies now. That's happened for the first time. To be clear, City's won 8 of 11, and they've launched themselves up the Eastern Conference table, and they will be a formidable foe for whoever they face in the playoffs.
And I think City could have killed this game during the first half. They had so many chances.
Yeah.
This game could easily have gone like 7-3, 6-3, 6-7-3. It was embarrassing again.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it was defensive giveaways, an insistence on playing out of the back every single time City was pushed up to New York's goal. I mean, they were challenging Coronel every time, tons of passes back to Coronel, and a desire, I guess, to just make sure that you were building out of the back instead of just launching the ball into the opponent's half and trying to win a battle. And it didn't happen. Agreed. In the first half, yes, there were a number of chances that City put wide. New York put 2 of their 10 shots on target. Neither of City's goalies had to make a save in this match. The 2 shots on target both went in, and that was it. Is there a bowl when you lose at home to your chief rival and then 72 hours later are eliminated from the playoffs?
I'm gonna go with Eric Choupo-Moting because of his 2 assists. I
Yep.
could give it to Julian Hall too for stepping up at the beginning of the game. But I would go with Eric.
Yep.
All he has done throughout the season, stellar, more than what we could expect.
Yes.
So I'll give it to him.
Agreed. And as we've talked about, has done everything and like exceeded expectations significantly. He's in the top 10 of the league in goals scored, and had 2 assists in this match. So I agree. Ugly moment after the match. Obviously, nerves are incredibly raw. The team loses to their rival at home for the 2nd straight year. They're going out of the playoffs. The players came down to the supporters' end, and there are obviously contrasting stories of what transpired, with Raheem Edwards apparently claiming that he was racially abused, or the team is complaining. Edwards got into it with some members of Torcida 96. Torcida said unequivocally that while they were certainly not happy, and let their frustration known at Edwards, at no point was any racial words used. There was our friend Mike Batista has reported at Hudson River Blue that Torcida believes that these were fans that were using homophobic slurs that were not in Torcida, but on the side of Torcida, that may have set Raheem Edwards off. Obviously, an ugly incident, and really adding insult to injury to a terrible night. Obviously, supporters have every right to be upset that the team lost. I personally don't believe that yelling things at individual players does much, other than I don't think it does much, because these are people, and they feel badly because they were unable to bring the supporters what they wanted. But no one, I mean, it is a sporting event. People will make comments to players. They are, worked up, and it's just an unfortunate incident all around.
Unacceptable.
Yep.
It's a shame. It took place in our beloved Sports Illustrated Arena, place that I like to take my kids to watch games, and I always have fun as a supporter too. And to see that happening at the stadium, I like to take my kids. Unacceptable.
Yeah, ugly. All right, let's talk about what went wrong, and give kind of an autopsy on this season. And you can make the argument that the makeup of the team just wasn't good enough. I want to put up on the screen, and I apologize if you were only listening, but I've looked at every member of the team and their contract end dates. And for those watching, I apologize. Here are the players whose contracts will come to an end at the end of this year. Only Carlos Coronel no longer has an option. Carlos's time with the Red Bulls has 2 more matches, and then will come to an end, as Coronel will look to continue his career elsewhere. He's clearly, in his durability, in his quality, and yes, he made some mistakes this week, but you can put him in the pantheon of Red Bull goalkeepers, perhaps right behind Luis Robles. I mean, just a lot of the success that New York has had since he's been here is due to Coronel's ability. But the other players whose contracts are up at the end of this year all have options. Kyle Duncan, Adrian Marcucci, who obviously will be injured and back. He has two years of options after this year. Sean Nealis' contract is up with an option year. Curtis Ofori, who's yet to appear for the Red Bulls first team. Tim Parker has an option, and Peter Stroud has an option. We saw in the end of the season, Coach Schwartz move away from both Edelman and Shroud in the midfield as Berggren came in and started to play a little bit more, be healthy, and Ronald Donkor as well. I'm curious what your thoughts are of players here that may or may not be here in 2026?
Mark, I would bring back Sean Ellis because he's a reliable center back and I trust him. I like his leadership within the locker room. And Stroud. Those are the two guys that I would bring back. Marcucci, we know he's coming back. It's
Yes,
just an
Marcucci will
injury.
be back.
Yeah, and Kyle Duncan, I will thank him too. Carlos Coronel, I wish he could stay for a little bit longer, but I don't think he's staying. And those are my options: Sean Ellis and Peter Stroud.
It was. We're really going to have to get with Coach Schwartz and find out what Sean Nealis's challenges were through this year, because down the stretch he lost his starting spot to Tim Parker.
Yes.
And so I'm curious what the team believes he's dealing with and the challenges there, because Parker obviously got a goal in Montreal and certainly contributed. Neither of them are the speediest of center backs playing next to Noah Ayla, who's locked up through 2027. Red Bull fans, don't worry. Just to quickly go through this again, the players whose contracts are currently ending in 26, all of these players have options: Chupo, Doncor, Edwards, Forsberg, Hack, Hall, McCarthy, who for me is the starting goalkeeper for 2026, Jose Mina, Rold Mitchell, who's coming out from injury, Lewis Morgan, who may or may not ever be healthy enough to play again, Mohamed Sofo, and then here through 2027, Ayala, Wiki, Carmona, Edelman, Yengar, Harper Morales, Dylan Nealis, Serge Goma, Aiden Stokes, and Omar Valencia. And then signed through 2028, Bogach, Mascara, Rojas, and I believe Gustav Bergeron, who is not listed on this document. But nevertheless, I mean, for me, sir, this was a team that was unable, with the lack of Harper and the lack of Morgan, to find another gear from an attacking standpoint, and frankly did not get enough from the wingers to be a multi-dimensional team.
It all fell down. It all fell down on Forsberg and Eric Choupo-Moting.
The whole season.
The whole season, absolutely. And I have in my mind something that may not bring some pleasure to the Red Bulls fans, but I think it's time to really evaluate the cost of Lewis Morgan in this roster.
Yep.
We lost him the whole season.
3 games.
3 games. The 2 years ago we lost him halfway through the season. So I think the Red Bulls are paying a high price for a player that unfortunately is staying in the medical department for such a long time, which is a shame. We know his quality, we know what he brings to the team, we know all the things he can do, but it's certainly something that needs to be evaluated.
Yeah, I think they need to go out again, as you said, and find a veteran attacking wing that can really make contributions. Again, Sofo's 20, Cam Harper is 23 and will be coming back from injury. Yengar is 21 and kind of appears to be a bust. Serge Goma is 20 and hasn't really shown it. And it means that New York has been incredibly limited to what the 2 DPs can do, but there are 3 DPs on a team for a reason.
Absolutely.
And the lack
Yengar too, he needs to prove himself. And now I don't want him to prove himself.
No, you just want him to move on. Yeah,
yes,
for sure. Yeah, and then again, I think Edelman and Stroud, as we've talked about, are too similar of players. I think settling on Morales as a starting left back next year is going to make a huge difference. I think Andy Rojas and where he plays in this organization will make a big difference. But the Red Bulls, and we'll talk about this during email. So many fans are hoping that this will become a massive wake-up call to the front office and that they will change what they're doing and things will be different and heads will roll. And I mean, I fully expect Sandro Schwartz and Jochen Schneider to be back next year. I feel that they feel that they are close enough to last year's record, frankly, and to be clear, they got to 47 points last year. They can get to 49 points this year and not make the playoffs. And so I feel like they feel that injuries were the reason why they didn't perform as well this year. But it definitely was a stagnant year that the Red Bulls continued to make the same mistakes over and over, conceding early goals, conceding after scoring, despite the fact that they had these two guys that were carrying the team, unable oftentimes to break down defenses. Yeah.
I don't want the team to fire Sandro because
no, I don't think they will.
It's only his second season. He had a great first season. It didn't go well. My only concern or my only question to him would be regarding Hack.
Yeah.
Because I expected Hack to take control of the center backs, and we know Hack was an indication, a player scouted by Schwartz, and so I wish he could address that to us. Why Hack didn't perform at a level that we all expected from a German center back with European experience and everything else.
In 66 regular season games, Sandro Schwartz is 23, 22, and 21.
He took us to an MLS Cup.
He did. He did. For the first time on Seeing Red, Seeing Red, we're going to preview now a game that doesn't matter, a regular season game that has no impact. I'm going to run through this as quickly as I can because I feel like we have to do the service to the listeners and viewers.
Yes.
Cincinnati is 18-9-5 for 59 points. By the way, they're the opponent this Saturday on Fan Night in Harrison. I'm curious how many people will attend this match. They're second in the East. They've scored 48 and conceded 40 in 32 matches. The third best defense in the East. Among the crazy things about Cincinnati this year, they have a better road record than home record. They're 10-4-2 away from TQL. This is the best away record in MLS. They're third in the league in clearances per match. They're third in the league in shots on target per match. They are fifth in the league in goals scored in the first 15 minutes of games with 8, and tied for fourth in the league in goals conceded in the last 15 minutes with 14. They've been kind of treading water over their last 5. 2 wins, 2 losses, and a draw. They lost 1-0 at home to NYC. They lost 1-0 at home to the Philadelphia Union. They beat Nashville 2-1 at home, and then they went to the LA Galaxy, who will also obviously not make the playoffs. And they won 3-2 there. And then this past weekend, a 1-1 home draw against Orlando. And when we talk about FC Cincinnati, we talk about the Evander Show. One can point to the abundance of talent they have at their disposal, an incredible squad, but the Red Bulls are obviously in a different place. But one man is the key to their success. Following the departure of Lucho Acosta, Cincinnati brought in Evander from Portland, and he has carried the team on his back this year with 21 goals and 16 assists in 37 appearances in all competitions. He has 1 goal contribution every single game. In MLS 17 and 13, he is a candidate. If your name isn't Leo Messi, he is the candidate for MLS MVP. And then strength and depth, revisiting a point. When you look at the success of FC Cincinnati, their squad is one thing that goes under the radar. They have Evander and Brenner, who has returned to the team, and Kevin Denke. That is as terrifying a trifecta attacking in the league. They also have Pavel Buka and Lewis Engel and Miles Robinson. By the way, going under the radar, they can bring in Yaya Kubo off the bench, who's punished the Red Bulls in the past. Dominic Marchuk. It's one of the most talented front to back rosters in all of the league. This is the 20th all-time meeting between the teams, which is tied 8-3 all-time. The last time these teams met, Denke had a goal in the 70th minute as Cincinnati beat the Red Bulls way back on February 22nd. Burr at home against Cincinnati. The New York is only 3-5-2. That may be the only team in MLS that the Red Bulls have a losing home record to. The last time these teams met in Harrison, it was a 3-1 win for the Red Bulls in June of last year. Goals, a brace from Lewis Morgan and Kyle Duncan had a second. The Red Bulls were up 3-0, and then Corey Baird got one for Cincinnati late. The active and all-time leading scorer is Lewis Morgan with 4 goals. Kyle Duncan also has 2 goals for this team. Here is what the lineup could look like for Pat Noonan. Let's get into it. The goalie is with Roman Celentano out with injury. We welcome our old friend Evan Loro, Red Bulls 2 legend, who is 29. He does not have a clean sheet in 6 games played for FC Cincinnati this year. The back line is really a back 5. Lucas Orellano with 3 and 6. The left wing back, the center backs are Lucas Engel from Denmark, Nick Hagland, who's 33 and still in this league, and Miles Robinson, former Atlanta, with a goal this year. The right wing back is Ender Echenique from Venezuela, who has a goal and assist. The 2 6s are Pavel Buka with 7 and 3, and Samuel Gidi from Slovakia. The attacking triangle is absolutely devastating. Evander, again, 21 goals and 16 assists. Kevin Denke up top has 16 and 2, and Brenner has just recently returned to this team with 3 goals so far, the 25-year-old Brazilian. And so this game does not matter to the Red Bulls. It will be very interesting, Gustavo, to see what Schwartz does with this game. And what do you think?
I think now they're fighting for their jobs. It's the only thing I can, see. It's to see the players fighting for a spot in 2026. That's all that matters now, and they have to respect the crest too. They have to play for the fans. Whoever bought season tickets, whoever will go there, will step up. They have to honor those guys at the standings. So fighting for their jobs, basically, and booing FC Cincinnati, which brings me back 2020 memories. It was the last match before pandemic, and I was there, and I saw Kyle Duncan score a nice goal, and I thought that was the year.
There's really no point in even making a prediction here because the result does not matter to New York. So we're not going to do that. Yeah, I mean, I just want to see New York come out and fight whoever plays. And I don't know. We'll find out tomorrow. You can watch Seeing Red socials whether or not they just plays the kids. I mean, we know Forsberg and Chupo are pros and they're going to want to play. This is the last chance for Carlos Coronel to play in front of the home fans. So hopefully he will play. And, you can just understand the strangeness of this situation. This team has not faced a meaningless home game since Julian Hall was born. I mean, it's crazy. It's a very long time, and it's a different feeling. And as a Met fan, and I know you are, Gustavo, as well, it's been a very tough few days. But if you're going to go, please just go and support the players, and not make this an ugly spectacle. You want to bring a sign saying Red Bull out. You want to make a sign saying, do something different. I know there was a chant of sell the team at the end of the game. The Chicago Fire made the playoffs for the first time since 2017. it can be worse.
Not only that, they beat Inter 5-3, 5-3, 5-2,
5-3. Yeah, it was a wild
5-3.
game. Wild game.
Crazy.
Crazy. All right. When we're back on Seeing Red, we're going to talk to our friend Steve Cangialosi. So please keep it here, won't you? We'll have emails after that. Thanks. We're at the New York Soccer Roundup. The Red Bulls are not going to be taking part in the Eastern Conference playoffs for the first time in a very, very, very long time. And very, very pleased to have back. And that's no stranger to the Red Bulls and to Red Bulls fandom. And that's Steve Cangialosi of MLS Season Pass. How are you, sir?
I'm fine, Mark, and I was fully expecting to be at Sports Illustrated Stadium on Saturday. I got the call early Wednesday morning. They want to switch me to Philadelphia, which can win the Shield with a win, so that'll be my assignment. But it's been a long time, as you said, since we've been in this situation. October 24th, 2009. The last time I called a Red Bull regular season game with no place in the table or playoff implication at all, which was the last time they played at Giant Stadium, of course.
Right. That was a 5-0 win, if I remember, for the Red Bulls, knocking Toronto out of the playoffs, if I remember correctly. You called the Hudson Derby, and I think it's a great place to start because I think the problems that the Red Bulls had in that game were really kind of a microcosm of what has been a season unlike any other in a very long time. So I'm just kind of curious what your overall thoughts of the Red Bulls' performance in that match was.
I think the kick in the pants for a lot of Red Bulls fans is that you probably saw in New York City, your rival, a lot of the things that you loved about your team. That team that's content without the ball, that team that's going to kill you with pace in transition. They did it showing guts without their best player, Alonso Martinez, but you had guys like Agustin Ojeda who were off to the races on every counterattack. Every counterattack the Red Bulls surrendered in that game.
Yeah.
Looked like it would be something that would blow up. And sure enough, 3 of those chances for New York City find the back of the net. I don't think it was the best game for Carlos Coronel. I still don't think the Pereira header should find the back of the net. It does. To his credit, Pereira, we saw, took a peek at goal before he actually released the header, and he put it in a perfect spot. And it's a game that turns out a couple of days later leads to the conclusion of their playoff hope. The only issue I had with Sandro Schwartz in that game was kind of what he did in the midfield, Mark. And I understand why he did it. He starts Gustav Berggren and Ronald Donkor in the midfield. They each contributed to the win against Montreal the previous week.
Right.
And in all fairness, I didn't say this during the game, and I didn't think about it before the game. But Edelman and Stroud are guys who give you a lot against the ball, number one, but they generally are local guys who bring the fight against New York City.
Mm-hmm.
And they weren't part of it. And in retrospect, I wonder if that might have made a difference. Who knows?
Yeah, I mean, I think that Schwartz was so concerned about getting any type of offensive thrust out of their sixes, and you definitely didn't see that from Edelman and Stroud in the second half of the season for the Red Bulls. And I mean, you can make an argument that you found something that worked, generated their second win on the road against a poor Montreal side, frankly, that had nothing to play for. Why not stick with it? But when I think back, when I look back at this 32 game jaunt that the Red Bulls had, they won 12 games. For a team that's missing the playoffs, 43 points is a lot of points, frankly. And but there's a lot of sense among the Red Bull fandom that this team just kind of didn't pass the eye test. Dax McCarty had some very pointed moments on MLS pregame when he talked about the players below the DP level that really didn't step up. Do you agree with Dax that the way this team was constructed just wasn't special enough to be more successful?
All right, so there's a lot that you led me into right here. Okay, so let's start with your pointed question about what Dak said. Okay, can you really argue with the big signings on this team? Forsberg had a good year.
Phenomenal.
Chupo has a chance if he scores 3 times in the last 2 games. Red Bulls have only had one guy in a debut season to score 19 times. That was Juan Pablo Angel, who did it in 2007. That signing has to be considered a success. Of the U22 guys, I'll go to the bank with Noah Ayla more times than I'd
Yes.
leave him out, okay? So where do they fall short? Well, Lewis Morgan is a guy you obviously wanted this year, and obviously now there's no indication that he'll step on the field again for the rest of 2025. Cameron Harper is a player who probably slides into that definition of the middle guys on this team who need to give you something. And that certainly was a crushing blow because you miss a lot of the pace required when you're going to play the system that the Red Bulls play. So I think Dax in that sense makes a good point. Now I'm going to take issue with a couple of my colleagues at MLS Season Pass,
Okay.
because it's McCarty and Question who've been sitting there in the studio the last couple of weeks, and I've heard this. It's the best thing for the Red Bulls to miss the playoffs because now there's going to be some reset. And I would love to know what the heck they're talking about, because what reset is going to happen now that you are a 10th place team as opposed to having finished 7th or 8th in very recent years? What epiphany exactly happens now that you are a 10th place team, that you're not going to play a wild card game? Please. This team will bounce back. It will perhaps bounce back as soon as next season. But if they bounce back, and when they do, that will happen with the formula that we have grown very accustomed to. They will bank on young kids in the academy growing and getting better. They will invest, rightly so, in a training facility that, if it's not top notch, will be something very close to that.
Yes.
And they may or may not hit on designated player signings moving forward. The DPs are going to be the same because, quite frankly, Chupo and Forsberg are under contract for 2026. So is Lewis Morgan, and they expect to have him back. So can you, like I, see that all too familiar press conference, let's say, on February 17th, where somebody stands there and says, we've finally added the third DP, and Morgan's going to be healthy, so it's like we're getting 2 stars now.
Yes.
We've gone down that path, and all of this, in some strange way, is justified because they came within an Emil Forsberg post of forcing overtime in MLS Cup last year. If anyone expects this team to approach business radically different because they're not a playoff team, please, my line is open. Explain it to me. I don't know what the heck you're talking about.
Yeah, I think the idea that there'll be mass firings in the front office because of coming up a few points short is probably not the case. There are a number of players, though, whose contracts are up. It's not a large number, certainly compared to the contract situation at the end of next season. But it's players that Red Bull fans are very much aware of, been here a long time. Carlos Coronel doesn't have any more options. I'm not expecting him back with the team next year. But players like Kyle Duncan and Sean Nealis that have been with the team for many, many years. Yes, there are options that may or may not get exercised. I found it very curious down the stretch. Sean Nealis seemed to lose his starting spot next to Noah Ayla, who definitely is always he's CB1 now on this team. A little surprised to see him thrown in at the end of the derby as a forward, which I think speaks to the lack of options that Schwartz had for attacking talent. But I'm just kind of curious your thoughts on those particular players and perhaps whether or not we're coming to see the end of their time in New York.
I think in a cap league, you ask hard questions, right? Tim Parker status was elevated in the second half of the season, and Alexander Hack makes a decent amount of money. So I think you're wrestling with things in the cases of Sean Nealis and Kyle Duncan. Even if you value those players, I think you ask the hard question in a cap league, can we continue to pay them what we have been paying them? I think in Duncan's case, it's somewhere in the area of $500,000 a year. And that might be chump change in other parts of the world, but in a cap league in Major League Soccer, maybe not so much. So I think the nucleus of this team is going to change. The Coronel thing is interesting because you're going to make the hard decision. Is this that point where shutouts is nothing to sneeze at, even though I don't think he's had his best game in some big moments like the one against New York City. But maybe it is time they make the hard pivot to the younger goalkeeper like Marcucci and just go in a different way. I think that we're looking at some reshaping of this team, Mark, but to say there's going to be a makeover, I'm curious to see whether or not that's really in the cards for Jochen Schneider or anybody else who is going to have a big say on this team. And I'm curious to see moving forward, by the way. I'm not sure you were going to go down this road with me. What Jurgen Klopp's role is in all of this. I think I said to you preseason, it would be nice if this wasn't a figurehead thing. If he's here 9 or 10 times during the course of the year. And it was really nice to see him on match day 37. It really was nice. And a lot of the focus with Klopp, who, let's face it, Mark, is one of the most respected, affable people in the global game. He talks, people listen.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of the Red Bulls fans looked at his visit this week and they saw comments about the growth of MLS, and they saw him commenting on pay to play. We've been talking about these things for 30 years.
Right.
I don't need Jurgen Klopp to tell me about pay for play. We're on that, okay?
Yes.
What I think the Red Bulls fans want to hear is, what's your vision for this team?
Yeah.
Is it going to continue the model of other Red Bull teams around the globe? Do you have a vision for the third designated player? Do you have a vision of one day being first on the tarmac when the next Thomas Muller or Son Heung-min comes to North America?
Right.
And a lot of that just got swept aside this week. Maybe he's going to be more visible in the next couple of, I don't know, but like, this is one of the most well-known people in the global game. He is part of the Red Bull fabric. And I just got the feeling that we got past the New York Derby with none of the key points really being addressed. We'll see.
It's a really interesting profile of Klopp and his time with Red Bull and The Athletic this week.
I saw it, yeah.
Yeah, it was an English, New York-based columnist that wrote the piece, and it was just really, it was not about the New York Red Bulls. It was about Klopp, and there was so little in that piece about the local side. There was almost nothing in it, and there was a commenter in the piece that kind of said, well, I'm a Red Bulls fan, and my team's missed the playoffs for the first time since 2009, and I kind of really want, just to your point, Steve, I want to know what he's going to do to help us. And then the following comment was something to the fact that, you know, Klopp belongs to the world. He's a global football icon, and, you know, your team is not really the focus of what this is all about. And I think that really kind of just stuck with me in the notion of, like, what do we do? What is, as you said, Steve, like, what is Klopp going to do to make a positive impact on this team and for these fans? And
I saw that he said, I've watched more MLS in the last month than I ever have in my life. That's good. Was the attention there leading into the transfer window over the summer, or did it? Let's pivot back to what happened to the 2025 New York Red Bulls, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And the answer, in my opinion, is very little happened. Very
Yeah.
little. You started this by saying they won 12 games. How many of your ardent listeners are aware that they have more wins this season than they did last year in the
Right.
regular season?
Yep. Yeah.
Very little happened. Now, what happened outside their universe? 7 of the 9 teams in the Eastern Conference that finish above them in the table got better.
Yep.
And the 2 that didn't, Inter Miami and Columbus, they were so good that they could afford to slip and still get into the playoffs on roller skates, right?
Mm-hmm.
So this is where we start to look at the coming years of Major League Soccer and how Red Bull will approach this. You have to take a long, hard look at what you're up against in the next few years. 2026, Inter Miami is opening a new stadium. I don't think they formally even announced Messi's extension yet, but they're going to.
I think they did. Yeah, he's
They
here
did.
through
Okay, that's
28
fine.
now. Yeah.
I'm sorry. New York City's opening a new stadium in 2027.
Mhm.
My suspicion is they're not going to roll out the Lamborghini with $10 tires.
That's right.
Going to get some players,
That'll
right?
be a big signing or two. Yes.
And in 2028, Mansueto in Chicago is going to have a nice palace on the south side of Chicago, and he is someone who's shown a willingness to get very good players into his team.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this is kind of what you're looking at in terms of competition in the Eastern Conference. And if you're just hoping that the likes of Toronto and New England and Montreal are teams that are just never going to find a way,
And
and you're
Atlanta.
always going to find a way to get into that middle of the pack in the Eastern Conference.
Yeah.
Look, I'm not saying that's a failed philosophy. And let me circle back and say the people at Red Bull know what they're doing. They're not stupid. This is a matter of prioritizing. This is a matter of recognizing whether or not you're going to be a player in the North American soccer market. And they've done some good things. They've done some good things. You know, what if Chupo scores 20 this year? That's a successful signing. Okay.
Agreed.
Forsberg's a hell of a player. And I actually have a lot of respect for what he did a few weeks ago when he confronted the fans in the south end of the stadium. I love that. Not everybody does that.
All right.
That's the stuff that leaders do. But there's clearly some disconnect now on making at least your fan base believe that you're doing all you can right now to play with the big boys and win a championship. And fans, I think, right now have a right to be angry about all this.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Agreed. I mean, that's again been the story of the post-Shield era is, are you doing everything you can to win? And if not, why not? And I think we saw from this summer's transfer window and the subsequent lack of transparency from the front office about what went down, that they're not doing everything they can, which then speaks to season ticket holders or casual ticket holders or casual fans coming and supporting the team.
The game day experience is still good.
Saturday was amazing.
That's kind of what always comes back to me too. You know, there was no place in the world I wanted to be Saturday night. I've got to tell you, when the place is packed, there's a vibe about it that's simply fantastic. And we have to, wrestle with the possibility that we're only going to get that 3 times a year, when it doesn't have to be that way. I know this is a tough market. I've lived here my whole life. I understand the competition of it all. I understood it internally when I worked for the MSG network for 23 years. I get it. I get that there are only so many dollars to spend and brain cells to kind of focus on everything in this wonderful market that we call New York City. I get that. But there's something here with this league. And for all the skepticism about Major League Soccer, Mark, it's in a pretty good place. As a league, it's in a pretty good place right now. And I think it's only going to be in a better place. Fans here want to see their team be real players, in that game.
Yeah. No, and they have every right to. Steve Cangialosi will be in Philadelphia for what might be a Shields clinching match for the Union. I guess that'll be fun for those fans.
It'll be fun for Bradley Carnell if he can do that. He often talks about, the affinity that he still has for the New York Red Bulls. But I think if they lift a shield on Saturday night, I think the real snicker for Carnell is going to go towards St. Louis, who fired him after a first-place finish. So
fair enough.
Good
Steve,
coach.
Thanks for joining, my friend. We always appreciate it.
Bye, Mark.
Bye-bye. We're seeing red. We do this every week during the MLS season, and we will be back next week before decision day. There won't be any decisions to make for the Red Bulls, but nevertheless, we will be back to continue to do a post-mortem and pick through the wreckage of this season unlike any other. It actually is like another, because the last time the Red Bulls made the playoffs, missed the playoffs in 2009, they had made MLS Cup the year before in 2008. So there's some symmetry here.
Deja vu.
It's deja vu all over again. seeingredny@gmail.com is where you can write us some very thought-provoking emails. The first from Mark Tramontaro, excuse me. So I'm going to get into it here. Saturday night was a tough one. It was great to see the upper seats open and pretty well sold. In spite of all the blue in the stands, the Red Bull fans were loud, and the collective roar at certain parts of the game were great. Our DPs delivered, and it was great to see Hall put one in the net after an absolute defender roasting by Chef Chupo. And yet we didn't get the result. We had all expected to see a tired City crew. Instead, we saw a tired Parker and Edwards combo that were constantly being tested and beat on the left. We expected City to have to reach into the bottom of their bench to replenish exhausted legs. Instead, we saw Schwartz would have no better option than to put a center back up top to aid the desperate attack. While I love the creativity and absolutely nothing against Nealis, it goes to show that we don't have the depth to compete with good clubs. I think that's right. While I hope next year we can avoid the trial and error we've seen at some positions, I'm worried, curious, your top 3 positions, pickups, and cleanups we need to make to shore things up. That's Mike T. in Bergen County. Top 3, sir. What are the needs that the Red Bulls have?
Wingers, healthy wingers.
Yep.
Center backs, I think, and a goalie.
Mm-hmm. I'm going to say I'll agree with you on the first 2. I'm going to say wingers. I think we need another forward to pair with Chupo. And I think we're going to need a right back because, again, I don't know if Kyle Duncan's back. And yes, while we have Dylan Nealis still under contract, I think you're going to want to bring someone in that can really challenge him at that position. Thank you, Mark, so much for your note. Here's our old friend, meaning he is a longtime friend, Ed Ritter. It may not be the end of the season, but it certainly feels that way as we're only playing out the string. I have 2 questions that may be more suited for after the final game, particularly if you have a full mailbag, as I suspect that will be the case. Please assign blame, Ed says, for the woeful performance this year. It's perfectly acceptable to cover a 2 or 3 year period if you prefer, as that would cover Schneider's tenure. What percentage do you attribute to A, the effort of the players, understanding the quality is primarily determined by the front office, B, the coaching staff, C, the front office, and D, other? Whose heads should roll? What are the odds of that happening? Will there be a wholesale roster rebuild? Do you anticipate any other changes? So that's question 1. Let's answer question 1, and then we'll keep going with Ed's email. So what percentage of the players, the coaches, the front office, and other, Gustavo?
Front office 60%, players 20%, coaching 20%, and I think that's it.
I'm going to, yeah, I like that. I like that. I may push to 70% on the front office and make it 15 and 15. Again, they missed horribly on Berggren. Bogac seems to not have it. Although it's super early. I think having to play Julian Hall on a game of this import just speaks to a lack of seriousness. And yeah, we can't go back in time and make Timo Werner take the deal, but there had to be a plan B.
Yes.
And to be clear, the fact that they wouldn't talk to the press is that is going to get me until I get another opportunity to speak with Jochen. Like, what are you doing? Come on. You have to answer the tough questions. Okay, Ed's second question, back to Ed's email. I love this team and I love going to games. I want to support them the best way possible, but I also want them to strive to be a squad trying to compete at the highest levels of all times. I don't think anyone would argue that it doesn't feel that way. I don't think that's a question. Given the above, what is the best way to... Oh, here's the question. To send a message to the team. I assume they monitor social media and likely listen to this podcast. I mean, I don't know. Do you believe management gets feedback and do they value it in any way? How would you recommend fans that want the team to succeed register their displeasure? Simply not giving the team money in the way of tickets and merchandise may send an indirect message, but it is really in direct conflict with wanting to watch them. Perhaps you feel otherwise. Looking forward to your well-reasoned responses. Gustavo, what should fans do that have had it, that are pissed and they want to send a message?
Not consuming the team. That's how I always believe a fan should show their displeasure towards the front office. Do not consume the team. Do not go to the games. Do not buy jerseys. That's what matters to me. That's the only way to make them suffer the same way we are suffering outside.
You can actually write the team. You can send an email to Marc de Grandpré. I appreciate. Listen, this has not happened in the Red Bull Arena. I said it, era. This has not happened since the team moved to Harrison. And while the team's record, I've said this previously, the team has qualified for the playoffs with poorer records 4 times. This is not the worst team in club history. They're a mediocre team that's around 500 in a very competitive conference where the other teams stepped up significantly and bested New York over 32 matches. New York's won 12 of 32 matches, which is not good, but there's like a 10-point gap between the Red Bulls and the Revs behind them. And again, they would make the playoffs if they were playing in the West. Currently, they'd be the 8th team in the West. It doesn't, for some fans, it doesn't matter, right? So you can do a lot of things. You cannot spend money on tickets anymore. You cannot buy merch anymore. You cannot go anymore. I mean, in theory, this has been happening since 2019 because the Red Bulls have been kind of mostly meh since 2019. And I don't want to completely crap on the organization because they did an incredible thing last December where they told all of the supporters, we will help you get to MLS Cup and we will pay for your tickets. And for the supporters, they help pay for the flight. Amazing. Who does that? That's incredible. Right? They told every single Red Bulls fan, if you can get to Carson, California, there will be a ticket for you. I mean, free. Also, amazing. That's unheard of in professional sports. It doesn't absolve them for the tire fire that's this year's team. I mean, I would write a note to Marc de Grandpré. You can get his email very, very easily. So write him and let him know your displeasure. If your plan is to not spend any more on tickets or really just drop your fandom of the team, that's totally on you.
You can
the team has to earn your dollars and your time.
You can even talk to Schneider personally because he's always watching the Red Bulls 2 games in Montclair.
If you want to do that. Red Bulls too made the playoffs, I believe. And you'll have an opportunity to, I guess, cheer them on in the playoff. But nevertheless, Ed, as always, my friend, thank you so much. Last email is Dan Anker, who writes, Mark and Gustavo, for a period there, the Red Bulls were far and away the best team that I cheered for, and they really felt like a championship was within reach. Nowadays, things have evened out in the worst ways. Let's play a game with my emotions. Can you tell me which of the teams I'm a fan of will win a championship first? The Red Bulls, the Mets, the Knicks, the Jets, the Islanders. Oh, Dan, geez. I am a victim of poor childhood sports choices, but loyal. Thank you for another great season of Seeing Red. I know the season isn't over, but it sure feels like it, doesn't it? No, it's over. Looking forward to you and your guests helping us make sense of everything this season going forward. Dan in Queens. Gustavo, I don't know if you follow all of these sports and all of these teams. Which of the teams is most likely to win a championship first?
Well, if you asked me the same question a couple of months ago, I would gladly tell the Mets.
Yes.
But now, given all the circumstances, I think I'm going to go with the Knicks. I think they have a better chance to win a championship in the NBA than all the others. But the Islanders, really?
I mean, geography playing a role here. I still think it's the Mets. I still think the Mets are going to win a championship before any of these other teams. I like the Knicks. Don't get me wrong, but I don't think that I think they're always going to be like one missing piece. They were certainly competitive this year. They had a great run to the conference finals, the first time in 25 years. You know, the Mets made the National League Championship Series last year and lost to the best team in baseball. And I'd like to think that the Mets get their starting pitching figured out for next year and things be better. I hope they sign Pete and Diaz to make that happen. I don't think it's the Red Bulls.
I truly wish we could say the Red Bulls.
Yeah, I wish too. But again, as we've been saying for some time, until the organization does everything possible to win the cup, it's not going to happen. And there are plenty of teams in this league that are doing everything possible to win. And you can make an argument that Cincinnati has as good a shot at anybody as winning. And yes, they're on a little bit of a downstroke here, but you know, their attackers are great. Celentano is a great young goalie who's a little injured right now. They've built a really solid team under Pat Noonan. So, you know, you can make the argument that Berhalter has brought to Chicago a sense of optimism. Let me tell you, Chicago crushed it down the stretch. I think they've won 4 of 5 against some very, very tough opponents. And with the stadium about to be built in Chicago, which is amazing finally for them to have a permanent home in the city of Chicago. The moneyed owners that are making smart moves and grounding the teams in their communities. You can make the argument the Red Bulls have been grounded for a long time, but there's something about the way that the Red Bulls do it that prevents them, because of their commitment to youth development. They are hamstringing themselves in the New York market to bring in to be a vital team in this market in the way that the Mets and the Knicks are, and they're not. They're not. So. We've come to an end of episode 631 of Seeing Red, a strange episode, an episode like that we've never done before. But Gustavo, it's been great talking to you, and thank you so much for being here, my man.
Mark, always a pleasure, and I want to congratulate you for 1 million viewers, downloads. That's a very huge milestone, and as a New York Red Bulls fan, I appreciate all you do to this team week in, week out.
Thank you very much. That's very kind. It really is all because of listeners and viewers that have made the show a success, over 16 seasons. We certainly intend to be back in 2026. We'll make it 17. Breaking news. But thank you. Yeah, it's a nice round number, but again, it's all about serving Red Bulls fans. So thank you for being a part of it. Thanks to Zach Feldman for stats. Thanks to Steve Cangialosi for helping to make sense of this season unlike any other in recent memory. And if you're still watching, thank you. Please like and subscribe. And we will be back next week to preview Decision Day, which for the Red Bulls will be full of a lack of decisions. But nevertheless, that's Gustavo. I'm Mark. Thank you so much for watching. Have a good day, everyone. Let's go Red Bulls. Bye-bye.